you want to continue? Okay, I will switch to, I guess, desktop. Yeah. So, um, so some number of years ago, someone created a clone of Medium. It's an open source project,
Yes.
and it's like a Medium clone. It's called Conduit. And essentially what they did was they published the API and some instructions, right? So that people could implement a similar, a similar project in other languages.
Do you know
And
how
so,
happy that makes me?
well, it took off. It went viral. And so
So I'm
people
late.
not only went nuts doing the whole thing, but they also have like front ends and back ends. Um, because so you can go to this is a database of all the various implementations. So if you want to see, for example, pick a stack. If you want Angular on the front
React.
end, and then whatever, something on different on the back end, Django, what have you.
What's the API spec expressed in?
It's I think it's Open API.
Right.
So it's actually quite simple.
Yeah.
The API spec is here. And so I guess Netlify has kind of sponsored it because GoThinkster got bought by someone else. And so this is their, they have a Postman collection for people who don't like to write, people who don't like to type. But basically they have and they have some tests. So if you can run these
so
tests.
there's a shell script you can run that will validate whether you're
yes.
Behaving.
And so this basically just does a handful of things. I've not actually done the tutorial, but I have referred to this from time to time to see how people do things in different platforms.
So were you thinking of this as being something that we could do to show a real world example of somebody using Cucumber?
Well, yes, it occurred to me that there are no feature files.
Yeah.
And so presumably one could write some feature files. It might potentially break or certainly extend the current API. But one could write a sequence of feature files, and then people could implement with different platforms.
They seem to have successfully already implemented with different platforms using the API spec, though, right?
Well, it is, but there are no, yes, but there's no, yeah. So one would basically just, if you will, extend this or complement it.
Yeah.
Of course, there are certainly, hypothetically, one could do that with any project. But this is quite a well-known. I mean, it's got 5,800 forks and 63,000 stars.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'd never heard of it before.
It's within the React world, it's particularly popular.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I wonder what people have done for testing the integration of the front and back end, how they do that and stuff as well. It definitely seems like something that we could develop an example for. I think I'd want, before we started it this week, I'd want a chance to do a little bit of homework on it first, probably.
So oh, well, of course. No, I'm not suggesting that we do anything like that today.
But this is a good suggestion.
It was just following up on Kate's interest in like a typical application.
But would you like to try
something that would be able to show the value proposition?
Because I could start with that today. I'm just going to write this down because I'm going to do some more research on real world.
Let me go. I don't have any examples here, but if you go to reports.cucumber.io, this here, and again, there are prettier. Circle CI, by the way, does a very nice job with their reports. They have like this nice tree where you can see like feature, scenario, step, Um, but I think so a more summarized view, don't think we have
Like
any.
a spinner with there is 100 tests and we are 50% through and
Something like that. Sure.
something like that.
Yes, exactly. Like a fuel gauge or a progress
Not
bar.
as, yes, a fuel gauge would be better.
And so, and then if you had like an imaginary sprint and the sprint consisted of 3 features and 2 of them were green, and 1 of them was like halfway done, then that's looking pretty good, assuming that there's still a few days left in the sprint. But if it's the day before the end of the sprint and you've got, 3 features, then only 1 of them passes.
Yeah,
that could be really useful, but that would be
looking at progress. Yeah.
But that would be kind of like a new feature for Cucumber, which obviously needs to be.
It does it. It does it already.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. It's
just adding a little.
You're just rearranging the template for the HTML.
Yeah, I think this is more you like expressing and there are reports that do that, like that already that people use in their CI platforms. I think we've tended to leave the reporting stuff either to the commercial teams at SmartBale, like the Cucumber Reports teams, a commercial team, even though this is a free service, or to third parties to build some of the reports. Because really, like Cucumber itself is focused on just being a runner of executable specifications, and yeah, we've kind of left the stuff about reporting the results to people to the community contributions mostly. But there is a pretty nice HTML report, and it could be extended and improved. It's all in the open source. Yeah, what do you two think about just trying to call it to order a bit? If we want to kind of demonstrate how we do BDD, we could definitely use that for the project of building a GitHub action that can retire people into the contributor into the alumni group.
Yep.
Yes.
Should we try and do that?
It's nice and it's very clear, crisp, concrete.
Okay. Well, so how about what we do is we start with example mapping.
Good.
Yes, I would love that.
Yep.
Have you ever done example mapping, Blaise?
Not really.
Cool.
I've read about it.
Right. Well, let's do it. I'll make us a new Miro board. Do you know what? I'm just going to do it over here. I'll just do it on this one. So you two should be able to get in here. Anyone with the link can edit. Copy board link. I'll send it in the chat. No, don't put the chat there. Put it where the people can't see it.
Why isn't example mapping like integrated in the workflow of Cucumber?
It's a people process. It's not a thing that you use tooling for, really. I mean, we can use Miro. We'll use Miro now, but it's designed to just use like a pile of these.
Yes,
back in the day
but
exactly
because
physical spaces.
Then you need to put the same information. Okay, let's go through the process rather.
Let's go through the process. So
have
you got the link to the Miro
jumping
board,
ahead.
now?
Yes, I'm in.
Yeah. Oops, that's the link there. Now showing on the stream, which I'd rather people.
Where are you? Visiting architect. I'm going to share. I'm just a visitor today.
Screens. Oh yeah, I don't need to share screen, do I? Because you two can both see it.
We're in the board.
And
yes.
OBS is watching.
And there's
watching us.
Is OBS watching? I don't know.
Yeah, OBS is watching this desktop, so
Brilliant.
It's all good.
All right.
Right. So what we would tend to do is we're going to think about a user story first. So let's use a yellow card for a user story. And let's think about what's the first thing that we want to do with this thing. So I'm going to try and facilitate as much as possible. And I know that you two are new to this domain problem, right? I've just presented it to you, but that's fine. I think that's going to mean we're going to ask lots of questions. Let's get us a few cards as well. So we're going to have story,
So my
Willow.
first question before we start writing stories is,
Yeah.
shouldn't there be like an epic or a goal to say that we are trying to automate cleanup or making, what's our ultimate goal?
Well, let's
To
start with that
ensure
as the
that the
story.
committers,
Okay.
Let's start with that as the story for now.
to
then
keep
we'll
the
split it.
committers active, like to make sure that all the committers are active members.
Yeah, so I mean we're over here, aren't we? So we've got the where we're coming in from in terms of like the overall goals for the project is
Yeah.
we're trying to do security hardening. We
Okay.
want to tighten the security group configuration, and we want to retire inactive contributors into an alumni team. So we need
Okay.
to build some sort of a script, and I think we can
Okay.
ship it as a GitHub action.
Good.
That's the kind of the way it's going to be delivered. So let's give ourselves a pile of cards here that we can use.
So we need to define what does retire mean.
Yeah,
When
12
when
so
do you
basically
become
we're going to limit,
inactive?
yeah, the goal is to limit access to 12-month actives.
12
Anybody who's
months?
12-month active, yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with that question because Kate's just asked the question. So what did you say? What does retire mean? Yeah, that was your
Yes.
question. So how about we have an
Well,
example? Let's think of an example. So I gave you one. Greg Hnatiuk, I think is how you say his name. It's probably not how you say it. Let's search for Greg.
I like the real world example.
This is how we do. So
Cool.
It makes it so much more real and practical.
Yeah.
Greg Hnatiuk.
Or actually, not
this is actually
retire
also-
inactive. What does inactive mean?
Yeah, right.
Inactive.
That's actually the question that I've
Yeah.
got. Like, is it 6 months? Is it 6 years?
What
Is it
inactive mean? So
50 commits?
Greg
Or is it...
was really active. Now I don't know if we're going to be able to get anything easy from. Look, so he's made no contributions in public on GitHub in the last year.
Okay.
But are we going to be able to get these filtered by? So look, here we go. So he worked on Gherkin. You can see that. And he worked on Cucumber.
If
Can you
I
share
think-
your screen, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right, yeah. So that's funny because it's in the stream, but not on the screen share.
Because we can, but I don't know what you are looking at.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. We can operate
There you go.
independently. Yeah.
So this is Greg.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know how we can easily.
He hasn't
find out
contributed at all.
when
Yes.
his last contribution was. If we at least spin back through these, we should see some dots in one of these charts.
Oh, I thought it was going to be, if we look at repos that we own. Oh, there we go, September.
There was something there. Contribution. Okay.
Yep.
So he was added to the Cucumber organization. Is there anything else? Let's keep going back.
So we would have right, or you would have rights to the repos that you own. So if you look at the last commit date,
So we
and if the
create a
last commit
repository
date,
which is nothing to do with us. Yeah, exactly. That's what we would really want to do. And I don't know whether we have time to. We'd be writing half the code right now. I just wanted to try and get the data point on. I tell you what I can do.
that would be part of the step file. In other words, I don't think that we need. I guess this is the question. It seems to me like that would be too great a level of detail to actually like call out the name of the
We don't-
variable that we pull.
Yes. And we don't
But-
care how active he has been on GitHub. We just care about his contributions on
Yeah.
Cucumber project.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
And then can I ask another question on the board? Can I complete it as a placeholder because I'm scared I'm going to forget.
yes, go. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so there's a contribution. Let's just use this as an example. There's a last contribution from Greg where somebody merged something from his on the 12th of July 2010. So let's use that for argument's sake for our example. So Greg
Okay.
last contributed on 10th of July 2010. So that would definitely be inactive.
I guess that would be safe.
So we might want to find some other examples that are more edge casey, but
more than a decade, I guess that's a definite within bounds. But is there a more recent example, maybe like 6 months or a year,
So
or when does it become an issue?
We might need to make some up, right?
So is there a quick report that we can run to get like the last active contribution on the project to see account and sort it by date?
I actually think there isn't right now. So that's kind of what the work is here, is to write that kind of a script to do that. So I think what we need to do is just define the rule. And you've started to do it here, Blaise, right? Today minus last commit date is greater than
it's
or
less
equal
than
to
or
12
equal.
months. So inactive if is the implicit thing here, yeah?
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Today minus last commit date is greater than 12 months. I mean, do you want to try and reword that in a slightly more...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'll do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Plain speaking way?
Sure.
You started to write code there almost.
Yes, we can just copy and paste.
But this
isn't that the purpose?
Oh,
that would
I think
be...
you need to click outside of it for me to be able to edit it.
Yes.
All right, yeah.
There we go.
You've
all
locked it.
User is inactive if they have not contributed for 12 months. Okay. So do we have any more questions about what does inactive mean?
No, I think I would have just made the decision a little bit different, but the 12 months is cool because that's the important thing. How can we make it realistic, like measurable?
Yeah.
So that's good.
So you're saying you would have expressed the rule a bit differently, Kate?
I would have looked at it in order to decide, I would have looked at the data to say that on average, 20% of users contribute maybe once per year. You don't want to exclude people because that will be very demotivating.
So
but
how about we leave a question, which is, what does the data say about what our inactive
whatever threshold?
What's a good name for this?
Threshold?
Threshold sounds good.
Behavior, yeah.
Because actually, this should be something that's configurable, and we can just pull a lever and change it, right? Like this isn't what exactly that value is a detail that we can decide later.
Yes.
So we can park this question for now.
Yes. My big concern is really about, it's all voluntary. It's people, you want to reward them for their contribution.
Yeah.
And if they suddenly try and contribute maybe after a year and 1 day, and then they're going to get a message, that would be very demotivating. How can you prevent that?
So you've made me think of something, which I think is another story, which is send a warning message when they, what does it say? I can't see because there's a cursor hovering over it.
What notification do users
send a warning message some period before retiring?
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
So there's two different things, right? There's sending a warning message before retiring the contributor, so they can kind of go like, oh yeah, cucumber, I like that, yeah, I'll make another contribution. But then there's also sending a message when they actually get retired, right? Which is this one here. What notification do users get when they are retired? So
Yes. So
I think we could park
actually,
that as a story.
can I rephrase this one to say send a warning message after X amount of inactivity?
Yeah.
So it's not before he retires, but after he, because that's like a proactive, you remind people, hey, we cool, come back.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So it's almost like what do you call it? Like a nurture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Email flow. Yeah, I love that idea, Kate. Yeah. So it's not so much a warning message, is it? It could be a nurture message.
Oh, yes, you will probably, maybe it needs to be two, because you will definitely need to, if you are serious about after 3 times he hasn't responded or he hasn't contributed, then you might want to say, okay, we are going to delete you, and that is a warning.
Yeah. Okay, so there's maybe a nurture message. So let's split it, shall we? So we've still got send a warning message before retiring a contributor, because I
so that is
that
actually
one.
that.
And then this one can be send a nurture message after X amount of inactivity. Yeah. So those are two both good stories.
And this can be the 12 months maybe. Or should it be 12 months is a long time. So maybe 4 months, like, because you also don't want to spam the people. There's nothing as annoying as receiving.
Yeah. Well, I think these are configurable settings. I think that's again like something that we can decide later. So let's just add a little like heading here. So this is questions for later. And that one was in there, but what about this one? So we've got some questions lying around here. So what notification does the user get when they are retired? So that is, so there's... But
maybe before that, what is the impact of retiring a contributor?
Right. Yeah. So let's leave this on the stack of questions to deal with. So can we deal with this one now? What is the impact of retiring a contributor? So
he gets moved to the alumni. He gets no rights on that project,
because Blaise is doing stuff
blazing forward.
All right, I'm done.
So
at the speed of light.
Accounts. What does that mean, Blaise?
It's just like administrator. Essentially, an administrator might want to have a list of active versus inactive users.
So that sounds like a story to me, not an example.
Very good. Yes, you're right.
So let's change the color of this card to yellow and stick it up here.
Okay. Yeah.
Now I noticed there are a couple of other ones that have ended up down here as well. A retired user submits a new contribution. Oh, that's a great one. But again, so that does sound like an example, but I'm not sure if it fits under this rule.
Fair enough.
Yes, that is actually what I was thinking when I was thinking of that question. So I'm not sure if it should maybe move more to that side or... this is a good point.
I think this is a story. A user chooses early retirement sounds like a story to me. That's a feature that we could have of this thing, that there was a way for them to retire themselves. But we could also, we could push it out of scope. A retired user...
Is that common on GitHub? Because...
What?
Yes, people will get, well, it's common in some communities because there's some responsibility. Okay. And so what they do is if they realize that they're not going to be able to continue, they might hand it off to someone else.
Because I would just leave it and forget about it.
Well,
or delete the link from my GitHub page.
Well,
okay. I wouldn't make more work for myself. But yes, it's a good point.
So I think we know enough now that we can sort of put this up as a top, like this is the whole big thing that we're doing. And then we need a specific story for what we're working on now. And the sort of the most valuable, most important nugget of this, because we've sliced out some other bits here, like the nurturing emails and the warning emails. But the specific story is retire an inactive contributor. That's the sort of heart of this, right? So we've said what the threshold is for them being inactive, or at least our first draft of it is that if they haven't made a contribution for 12 months. So we could scan the committers group, the committers team, find all of the people who haven't made a contribution for the last 12 months, and then what do we do? This is the question here from Kate. what is the impact of retiring a contributor? So the rule would be that to answer that question is that inactive contributors are removed from committers team and added to alumni team.
Okay, then I can delete this one. That's the same. And then also remove user permissions.
Yeah, because the permissions come with the team. So
okay, so you don't actually have to do something.
Well, so I say that, but it is entirely possible to give someone custom permissions on a repo as well. So actually, God, I love example mapping.
I love people working together because 3 brains are so much more clever than one.
So here's the thing about that is that there's an example where someone has custom access to a specific repo. I mean, I could give you an example. The other day I was looking at Cucumber Ruby, and for some reason Vincent had access to, I'm not sure if I could show you an example right now, but you can give, like rather than just team access, you can give the inactive account is the point, right? Inactive user. Oops, don't want any emojis on there. Inactive.
But emojis are cool.
Has custom access to a specific repo. So inactive contributors are removed from committers team and added to the alumni team. And so we're answering this question, aren't we? And then there's also the one where they have access to a specific repo. So we can have another rule there that inactive contributors have all access to. I don't know what the right terminology for GitHub is. It's like custom access or specific access.
I'll look it up.
Because it's like if you go here, look.
I'll go look it up.
Cucumber Ruby. Oops. Or Cucumber JS, for example. And we go here. And we go here. Oops. See, like, we just have all of the committers have got right access to this repo, and the Cucumber JS team, which is like the core maintainers of Cucumber JS, have got admin rights on this repo. But we haven't got anybody custom access. But I could add Blaise here. Is that you? No, what's your handle in GitHub, Blaise?
Yeah, Blaise P. Sorry, I have a dog, Phil.
Hey. Is it your dog that's so unhappy or happy?
You're not in the
I call him the doorbell.
It was there.
Aurelian, just to show it, because you're not in the Cucumber repo. So I could make Aurelian might be an admin on this repo, right, like this. So this is Aurelian would have had right access by the fact that he's in the committers team. I don't think he's in the Cucumber JS team. Maybe he is. No, he's not. So he wouldn't have had admin access because of that. But these 5 people do. But he has specific access because he's a person. And if we found that he was inactive, we should remove him from here as well. So that's different to removing him from the committers team. In fact, we should remove him from any other teams, because he might also have been in the Cucumber JS team as well. So it isn't just about the committers team, it's all of the teams.
But didn't you say when you do pull request and you commit the code, then only do you get, so regardless of the repository, it will be in the committers. So do you need to check?
I don't follow your question, Kate. Sorry.
It's always in the
When
history.
do they get added to the committers?
They get automatically added to the committers when they merge a pull request.
In any repository?
Yeah.
Or so
Yeah, any
then
of the
do you
Cucumber
really need to check all the other repositories?
Well, yeah, because they may have then, in their time as a contributor, ended up with being given custom permissions as well.
Okay.
And let's call it custom permissions.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you know, there's a question whether, like, say, if we ended up at the point where Julian's quite a good example, because I bet Julian's not contributed for over a year, but like he wrote Cucumber.js back in 2011, and you know, is it rude to strip him out of the Cucumber.js team?
I would be a little bit upset if I was the primary contributor.
So that's a question for me, is what do we do about somebody like Julian when okay, so he has actually made a contribution to some other repository, Cucumber Studio,
December last year, so he wouldn't fall into inactive in any case.
Well, but he's not. I'm trying to find one that he's done on Cucumber, because he's mostly been working on Studio and in-house stuff. Yeah. Oh dear, Julian, you're out.
He also knows about real world.
Does he?
Yep, the third one, I think, or the second one. That one,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Pure Script. Yeah, he's been playing Pure Script. It's Haskell, isn't it? Anyway, where do we take that in terms of our example map then?
So there's different roles.
Contributor. Inactive contributors have all custom permissions removed would be a way of dealing with this. But then there's the question about, which I kind of like to park for now, but you know, what about
what does the permissions look like in that repository? Can you maybe quickly go there, because there is the role of admin or the role of writer. Does all the contributors have just write access, or
if you're in this team, you get admin access to the repo, which is pretty powerful. You could you could leak the secrets that we use to publish the package, and then somebody could start publishing a fake Cucumber.js to npm, and everyone would download that and install it and get a virus potentially. So this is a security hole that we have somebody who was once very active and is no longer particularly active. And I can see a nuanced version of this where we take a bit longer to retire people who have been more active in the past or whatever. I think that would be like a nice story to do. But I would kind of, as product owner of this thing, I would like to defer that and say, so let's see, recognize past contributions in determining thresh inactive and individuals inactive threshold. Right? That's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes.
It would be really cool if Julian had there were different rules for Julian than for someone who's just made a one-line contribution to the docs and then never come back. But for the sake of the initial version, I think that if we say that they become inactive after 12 months, they're removed from the committers team and added to the alumni team. In fact, it's committers team and any other then inactive contributors have all their custom permissions removed. So I think those rules cover it, but I think I'd like some examples now underneath these to make them really clear. So we had one here which was about
Julian.
Right, yeah. So
Or
JV
I guess that's not a very good.
An admin on Cucumber.js through membership of Cucumber.js team. Remove access to Cucumber.js team. Right? And then let's pick an example of somebody in the... Well, I guess Greg actually, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How's your new job, Blaise?
I love it. I'm a product manager for platform.
Sorry?
I'm a product manager
yes.
now. For
and do you like it?
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's really fantastic, actually. It's almost ideal.
Almost.
Nothing's perfect.
Well,
yes. If it were, then you would be bored.
So can we tidy this up a bit?
Yes.
Is there things
that
we can remove Wonderful. Now? I think did we answer this question about what does inactive mean?
Yes.
This isn't a great example, though, is it?
Well,
I think the thing was, what do we do with, like, is it 1 month, 3 months, 12 months? We've decided that, so it's good enough.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a crap example.
Yes, but it's
and then what
very,
is the impact
very...
of retiring a contributor? I suppose we should just keep asking on this. And is there anything else? Let's maybe not get rid of that question yet. But what about these cards that are lying around here? So a retired user submits a new contribution. Oh, that's an interesting case, isn't it?
Yeah, they come out of retirement.
Yeah. Well, so my question there is, what does the because there's a bot which automatically adds people to the committers team, and I wonder how that this is more like a case to test for that thing, about whether that thing will behave correctly. I want to stick that in here as a question for later. Is that all right? Because I think
how does the bot handle retired users? Does the bot even know if they're retired?
Yeah.
Does the bot need to know? Yes.
First,
ideally not.
Access, standard or custom. So what's this here?
So that was basically just, I was thinking in terms of steps, what needs to be done. You will first need to check, are they retired, yes or no? And then what is their access level? And then, but I don't know if that's even valid or not.
So
that came up with
implementation now,
JB
right?
Pros.
Oh, really?
Which was an admin. Yes, of course. I always jump ahead.
Well, so that's fine, but it doesn't really fit into an example map.
Right. Okay.
Because what we're trying to think about here is just like, what are the rules that we need to implement in this version of the story?
Okay.
And we don't need to think about how are we going to implement it yet. We just need to make sure.
Then I guess you can delete it.
Okay. And then what about this one? Is this also? This is kind of like another way of saying
you've done that already. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I guess we could continue to look at this question. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
I've got time.
We could continue to look at this question, or we could move on to one of these ones. What
I think
notification does user get when they're retired?
Well, let's do a few of those.
Is the activity threshold driven by security or distribution of dates?
That's a good one.
What does distribution of dates
Oh,
mean?
Kate mentioned that we had, she pointed out that we had picked 12 months more or less randomly,
Right.
because we weren't looking at what the like the average duration of inactivity or when the activity drops off. So it occurred to
So
me
I
that,
guess that's already on the next column.
This
It's
one here.
already a question for later.
Yeah, we need to
Or
do
is
some
it-
research about that.
unless we decide that it's simply a security concern, and there might be a security policy in place that, you know,
Yeah, I think we
arbitrary.
could still work out what an appropriate threshold is to use, though, in terms of like people's behaviour. I think there's still some research we could do to tune
Certainly.
that number to be
Certainly.
correct.
basically validate the assumption that 12 months is adequate to be
Yeah.
deemed as
Right.
inactive or not.
Yes. So this is another way we can use the red cards is for assumptions as well. So
Oh,
we could just call that out that and then I think if we have these two sort of sitting next to each other, that's clear, isn't it? And then and there is also, like you say, there's that question about like what should we do for security as well. So I think we could come back to this because we could the point here, right, about doing example mapping is to try and find some small piece of this problem that we could start to write code for, because we're confident that at least this bit of it is going to be, we're going to need something like this. There are lots of other stuff that we know that we're not sure about yet, and we want that 12 months to be configurable rather than being hard coded. But we know that we need to, for now, we need to remove them from all other teams, not just the committers team. We know we need to go and find their permissions in other repos and remove those as well. Do we want to do a notification as part of the scope of this story? Or could we defer that?
I think it's crucial for the workflow because you don't want to annoy users by not telling them what's going on and then they're surprised. You need to communicate with them. But I do think, I don't know what the impact is of including notifications or transactional emails or something in the scope of this.
Different. It seems like it's an adjacent story.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's probably one of those ones where you wouldn't want to go live with it until you delivered both of the stories, but you could actually build and test them separately.
Yes,
definitely.
So it could be kind of like the next one on the queue. And we haven't actually got, so we've got to send a warning message before retiring contributors, sending a nurture message after so much inactivity.
That's transactional emails.
But we haven't got one about sending a notification when they are retired. So that's what this is, isn't it? So we could turn this into a story, just turn it yellow and say, user gets notification when they are retired. And we'll have to decide the details of what that notification looks like when we get to
it seems like each one would have potentially a different call to action.
Go on. Yeah, each of these three different, right, absolutely, and I think this one would be helpful because what's interesting about it, right, is that you can't actually send them an email. Like, well, so we know what Greg's email is, but let's see about Julian. Say, does Julian make his email address public? Yes, he does. Okay, let's see about somebody like Aslak. Doesn't tell you what his email address is, and even through GitHub's API, there's no way to find out what Aslak's email address is. So we can't send Aslak an email to say that we've retired him. Were we to do that, we will have to find another way of doing the notification. I've got some ideas, because you have in Teams, you have discussions.
Is it in the commit history?
Is what in the commit history?
His email address.
Oh, it probably is. It probably is, but it's not necessarily
But
reliable.
sometimes it's masked.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
okay.
won't.
I think the right way to do it is to use these discussions. So we've actually had a discussion about this in the committers team, where I've said.
Yeah. So basically, we communicate with him through GitHub.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's essential. Is it also possible that when he tries to maybe do another pull request, that he gets a notification somehow to say you can't contribute anymore,
Oh no,
but we still
wouldn't
like
do
you?
That. We would if they sent another pull request, we would just make them a committer again.
Okay.
I think
then we don't need to send them any notifications, to be honest.
Well, I don't know.
Because then there's not really a big impact.
Yeah, I think it's unclear to me though how well the automated stuff will work. So they might still get a surprise, and I think it would be nice to let them know. I'm trying to work out where the discussion is, because there definitely was one about this. Yeah, I can't find it right now. Maybe it is in core. Doesn't seem to be.
Could it be in Slack?
No, it's because I've had emails about it.
Okay.
So
it says show other comments. It's just at the end, at the bottom there, before Aslak. It says show other comments. Maybe that's been collapsed.
No, this is a different issue.
Okay.
About the changes to permissions, I think. I wonder if I can just search.
And maybe on the docs.
Issues, topics. So in issues, revoke commit bit after a year of inactivity. Here we go. So this was a. Yeah. Okay. Right. So this commit bit. This is the thing which sends the welcome message from Aslak. This is the bot which sends a welcome message from Aslak and adds people to the committers channel automatically.
Cool.
And then
should we include a link to this issue in our notes?
Yeah, well, I was going to do vice versa as well. I was going to say we've done some example mapping on the thing that's going to do it.
Good point.
So yeah, I knew there was something here. So yeah, here's an example, right? Yari or Yarl rather. I would prefer to be a member of the core team. Smile. But I do understand and respect the need to separate current active developers from former contributors, so making a separate alumni team seemed like a reasonable compromise. So that's feedback from someone else saying, I certainly don't need commit access anymore. Alumni suits me fine. Yeah, so let's link to it here. Link to, I think that's right. There we go. So that'll tie these things together. Yeah. So this issue where we're here, this would be a place we could write another. The bot could write a comment in here every time somebody's removed. I think probably the best way to do it would be to have a conversation topic in the committers team or in the alumni team. Saying, thanks, Greg, for all of your contributions. We've added you to the alumni team.
Welcome to the alumni team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we could start a thread even in here that says welcome to the alumni team, and then the bot could just write comments against that thread. That's probably how I would do it, how I would suggest we did it. But I think it would be good to work on the mechanism of like moving people's permissions around and do that and feel like we've tested that and that works, and then we could work on notifying them about what we've done as a separate task.
Okay. Yeah.
So what else have we got in here then? Update GitHub discussions. Yeah.
That's pretty much notes to self.
Yeah. So these are kind of related to each other, aren't they? Why don't we just?
They are. Together? That's why I put them next to them, and updating the docs.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, don't you also there want to have something to say? Permissions, just, I don't know. Is it necessary?
I don't know, which docs were you thinking we needed to update?
The docs that we started with, where everything
Oh,
isn't there a central portal that
These ones?
guides you to,
those aren't really for
yes.
contributors though.
No, this is much more for
Okay.
users, the docs here.
But if there were a contributors handbook, then that would make maybe like in an FAQ or something like that. If there were
Then that's
contributors
the
handbook.
answer. Delete.
The best kind of refactoring. And is there anything else that we should do when we retire a contributor? So we're going to strip away their permissions from the org. We're going to send them in. We're going to send them some kind of a message. Is there anything else that needs to happen?
Well, we add them to the alumni team.
Yeah.
Does the alumni team get listed anywhere, or?
Yeah, it's a public team on the.
Okay.
Should
they get a little
you
badge?
know,
Maybe they should
yeah,
get
like we could send a tweet out saying, you know, thanks
Yeah.
to so and so they're getting retired now. We could send them a watch in the post.
Or
Is
if
that
we
what you're
create
supposed
an
to get when you
I
organization.
think we're overthinking it.
Well,
Well,
yes,
I'm trying to be silly to see if we can stretch the boundaries
Yeah.
and see if there is something useful in the middle.
We could add a badge, like an organization badge.
Yeah, well, they'll still get to be a member of the organization, so it'll still appear in their GitHub
Oh, I see. Okay.
homepage, which is kind of the point.
They keep their badge. Okay, good.
You can send them a sticker in the post, a cucumber sticker. Thank
Yeah.
you for your contribution.
We'll have to get their mailing address.
Or you could just maybe send it to them by email and they can print it out themselves.
Here's an email of the cucumber logo. Yeah, well, but then actually, you are now making me think though. Is that we would be really sweet if we had like a URL we could send people for drop shipping, where they could just fill out their name and address and then they get some swag.
At the very least, a PDF certificate they could download.
I'm putting that as another story because I love it.
Really? So imagine, Blaise, 20 years from now, you haven't contributed for a year and you get a certificate to say that, like, we are celebrating that you haven't contributed for a year.
Well,
we could send swag as part of the nurture, right?
Yes.
Oh,
but I think it should be proactive and not reactive.
So let's just leave it as send swag and we'll decide when we can send them swag. But it'd be really cool. And it shouldn't be that hard. Like,
that would be so cool. I would contribute.
Your mailing address and then a nice package arrives in the post. It shouldn't be that hard.
And it must be a surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be delightful.
This is cool. Right. Okay, so we're almost at time. I think we have the shape of a thing here that we could start to... So the next step after doing the example mapping would be we'd write the feature files. We'd write the scenarios that describe this behavior, and then we'll use them to drive the implementation.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and it's taken us, I always used to say 25 minutes for an example mapping session, but this was the first one. We've not done it together before. And it was the first one on this project. So there's been a lot of generating of stories and kind of zoning in the scope. So I think we've done pretty well to get to this. It's taken us a bit longer than 25 minutes, but I feel like we've got something here we could build. What do you two think?
Certainly seems...
It's a pity we can't build it right now because it seems so easy.
You're so eager.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm looking forward to the next session.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to leave.
Yeah, me too.
So maybe we should just spend 5 or 2 minutes to define what the next actions would be for next week.
Yeah. So we can write a little plan.
Do we need to do homework?
So the next action I would see us doing with these scenarios, with these rules, I think we can delete this, by the way, can't we, this question? I think we've answered it. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I just heard you pause there. You said, and I thought,
Yes, I
there's an
did,
insight
but
there.
I read it again, and then I thought, no, it's fine. We can.
Okay.
I think we're overthinking it.
So actions. The next action I would like to do is to write Gherkin. So we can write up express these rules and examples in one or more Gherkin documents. I guess we need to create a repo where we can write the Gherkin for the project, because it's going to probably sit in its own.
Yeah,
repo.
unless it's part of commit-bit.
Yeah, I don't want to implement it in
No
commit-bit,
problem.
because a commit-bit is written as was a kind of an experiment of playing with using serverless stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think that's how we want to run this right now. I think we want to run it as we could. But I think this doesn't currently have any tests, I'm pretty sure, and I'm a little bit scared of trying to change it. We could.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
We could. It's
well, we do want to add some tests somewhere along the line. So would this be a good candidate to add it? I mean, we don't have to do it immediately, but
I don't know the code at all, and I'm a bit scared
No,
of trying
that's
to change
fine.
it. But it's only 100
It can
lines.
be merged later.
So maybe we could. Yeah, maybe we could. Maybe we could tame this thing. That would be quite interesting. I also don't know how it's deployed or anything like that. I think it's a bit kind of been thrown up manually. Yeah, because it's running on AWS somewhere. Well, let me have a look at that. Leave that with me.
Decide where it should live.
But actually, irrespective of where it's going to live, we can write some Gherkin. So
yeah, true.
It would be nice to have a repo to commit that Gherkin into.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we can, and then the next thing we would do with that is we would start to use TDD to run the scenarios, watch them fail, and help us drive out the implementation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yay.
Super exciting.
That sounds like fun.
Great. Okay, right. Well, I think we should stop the stream there. Thanks, everyone.
Do we need to do a quick retro, or?
Oh, that's a good idea. Should we do that on the stream as well? Yeah.
We might as well, I guess.
I'll pull up the. We've been doing it in the Cucumber.js repo, which is fine. Okay, can you see that?
Yes, very well.
I'm sharing my screen, aren't I? So we have this little tool that Steve Tuck wrote from Cucumber, which is for just doing retros in your code repo, which is quite handy when when you're mobbing and just trying to do these little short retros. So we've got Kate, we've got. So what did we do?
We can get a badge, Blaise, because we have been committed 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, sure. Okay, that sounds great.
I'll send you a PDF certificate.
Hey, I can turn it into an NFT and make.
Yes, that sounds like an awesome plan. I like how you think.
So what else happened? We talked about the
docs, and then we started with example mapping.
Well, yeah, so we decided we
wanted
to do
also the real world app. Different, yeah, we talked about different example apps. Exactly.
I'm going to look into that real world thing because I love writing.
Yeah, let's have a link to it.
And I'm not happy with Medium anymore.
Have you seen
Oh
Ghost?
yeah, well,
I like
I
Ghost
have,
for
but
writing. Where is it? Real World GitHub. Where this is where we're in it. So we decided to start work on the thingy to retire inactive contributors. And then I could actually add a link to that issue, couldn't I? Where is that? This one. We made an example map, and that is about here. Come on, give me a right click. What's the matter with you? Copy link. Okay, I think that's what we did. And then we had this retro. Better. So,
okay, so on the positive, can I go?
Sure, yeah, if you're ready, yeah. Absolutely.
I really like the fact that we are using a real world example. I also really like going through the example, mapping the using actual data, looking at actual data.
When you say actual data, you mean like an actual problem, a real world problem?
well, and also the
The
users,
examples, yes. Like
So you
Greg
mean that
and
we were pulling out Greg, right?
Julian.
Right, okay. So right,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not synthetic.
It makes it, yes, much better.
Yeah. Really important that in the
and
technique.
I like that we used Miro as a collaboration tool where we could pinpoint and write down our thoughts as like, remember this, the questions, go through that, clean it up.
Yeah, park some things for later, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my positive round.
Okay. Do you want to give us any negatives now while you're talking?
I was thinking about this, and I do think that if everybody gives a positive, then it's just less context switching, that we build on that.
Fine. I'm happy to get to run it that way. Blaise?
I think it was super helpful to do example mapping in action, particularly, so concretely, learning the distinctions between, say, a rule and a story or an example and a story was quite helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a time, wasn't there, initially a couple of the ones you wrote on green cards, and then I said they're probably stories, really. Yeah, and that's a thing that happens a lot when people are first learning the technique. It becomes clearer.
Yes.
That's why it's so difficult to teach, though, as well, because you need a shared domain problem to learn it on.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Yeah. If you
and you
got
also
that,
don't know what
understand.
assumptions the other person is going to make until they make them.
Yeah. Anything
let's
else
see.
that struck you, Blaise?
The other thing that struck me was, the other thing that struck me is that the materials that are used to teach Cucumber don't emphasize the end result. Like the intermediate progress toward a goal, for example, when the steps pass. You know, the end result is ultimately the mapping between the desired outcome and the result. But the way the materials start certainly is all about how it's the preamble.
Yeah.
The other thing they don't emphasize, which is really crucial for people moving into microservices, is the ability to have a single test that you can run against two separate implementations.
Okay, yeah. Any other insights, thoughts to share?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, for me, the big so our docs are crap.
It's not crap.
About that.
It's just docs. It gets outdated. That's why I don't really believe in too much docs, because it gets outdated so quickly, and it is super hard work to maintain.
Yeah, I can talk about that separately.
So that was kind of like one insight.
Yeah.
The other insight in doing the example mapping was just like how much we discovered about a problem I thought was simple. I love example mapping. I just like, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised after all these years, but still, it was like, oh yeah, gosh, look at this. There's 3 people collaborating. We're seeing lots of unseen stuff. It's brilliant. It's a perfect example of how that happens.
Love it.
Okay. Kate, have you got any other kinds of insights to share? Puzzles?
The only thing that on the more what could be better side was I wanted to write more, like be more actively participating in the Miro board. But I think it's maybe because I don't know enough yet. I don't know. But I feel that, yeah, I want to be more actively contributing.
More hands-on.
Yes.
I wonder if I took over there too much.
Yes, but you were also teaching us that's the thing. It's like you were teaching us, we aren't familiar with it. I just know that at a certain stage, I felt like I'm being disconnected, and it is because I'm not actively typing.
Yeah.
And I could have been more engaged if I was typing something. So maybe
like we could have used a more formal mobbing protocol of like rotating the driver. It's a thing that I've noticed about using these modern multiple people collaborating tools, because I also saw it happen when I had a mobbing session in VS Code where we had multiple cursors in the same code base, and one person was trying to explain speaking to try and explain their idea for how to solve the problem, whilst another person who couldn't have been listening to the first person was implementing a different way of solving the problem in the code.
Yes.
And it was really discordant, and it was only happening because it was the tooling was making it so easy for multiple people to collaborate, but the people were kind of like rushing beyond what the tooling was where the tooling was helping them. They were kind of like rushing past that and actually missing each other and not listening to each other.
Yes, that happens frequently.
Yeah. So for the next time we can rotate. We can rotate the operator, driver, or whatever, navigator, driver roles.
We can do that, or we can ask questions like spend 5 minutes to think about all the possible things and do it silently, and then discuss the stickies afterwards rather than that could be faster, because we did spend a lot of time.
Your experience of facilitation, like I took example mapping as far as discovering that landing with those 4 types of things was a good way to structure the outcomes of the meeting. But I never went on to think about like what's the process of running a successful meeting. What questions should you ask, in what order? Like how does the game work? What are the rules of playing the example mapping game? I've never really worked with it to that extent. Like
it would be hard because you created it, so it's kind of
maybe.
like just so natural for you that
maybe. Yeah, but it would be really cool to try and formalize that a bit more about
yes,
what are the
that
rules
would be cool.
Okay. Any other insights?
No, that's good enough for me. It
Yeah.
was fun. Thank you.
That's worth noting.
Yeah, we should keep quiet about this, otherwise thousands of people will show up.
Then we will have a VIP section for the ones with the PDF certificates and breakout rooms for the others.
Yeah, their profiles sort to the top of the list.
Yes.
So I'm going to take the action to figure out where we should implement this in the existing commit repo or somewhere else. I think that's.
And then I would like to commit to just spend a little bit of time to think about the process and formalizing example mapping. Because if I write it down here, I am committed, then you will keep me accountable.
Not necessarily.
Well, like a little.
Well, that's the only reason why I'm doing it.
Last week, right now, I don't think so.
I will. To me, it's like if I
Yeah.
say it out loud,
It
then I
helps.
will do it.
It definitely
Yes.
helps. Well, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Blaise, can you commit to turning up next week? That would be enough for me.
So next week, ironically, is going to be difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Not out of the question, but just a bit difficult because I'm likely to be on the West Coast.
Ooh.
Early
in other
start,
words,
then.
I'm returning. Oh, actually, that's not true. I might be. Yes, I'm very likely to be available.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Cool. Then we will see each other next week.
Cool.
Great. Right, I'm going to stop the stream there. Thanks both. That was loads of fun.
It was.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoy the weekend.
Cheers.
Stop the share. It's still streaming because OBS just sometimes gets hung up on my machine, just beach balls. I'm going to force quit it.